What's up, guys? Hope you don't mind me making videos that don't really relate to any of y'all's videos. I don't know. Things are a little bit slow at work right now. I am back to work. Feeling very fortunate and very blessed that I got a really good job, basically back at a company that I used to work for. So some of you that were following me on this channel know that I was talking about possibly going back to a company that I was working at before. Well, I am back there now and things are going well, but things are still pretty slow. It's got me a little worried about, I hope business picks up. But anyway, I don't want to get too far into that. I want to talk about this, the topic of conversation, for me at least, what I've been thinking about a lot lately. I just wanted to share it with some of you guys, maybe get some of your thoughts and see what you mean. I'm trying to think about what has been irking me and a lot of my friends, a lot of my family members about where society is heading right now, specifically Western society. And I think it's interesting when you see what's happening, how it's playing out, why it's playing out, etc. You're seeing these things repeat themselves from past historical contexts. I definitely see, Russian communism, socialism. I even see some hint of Nazism. I see some hint of sort of Roman Empire decadence kind of creeping its way in. And I find it interesting, and there's so much to talk about. There's so many different things that you can talk about with regard to where our society is going that, I don't want to make a 3-hour video, and I'm sure you guys don't want to sit through a 3-hour video either, but what I just want to specifically focus on in this video is morality and how society, we desperately want morality. We want some type of code of ethics, and we want things like justice, and we want fairness, and I mean, these things are not bad things to want. It's not bad to want fairness. Fair is not a dirty word. How many of you guys had brothers and sisters growing up? I would say the majority of you did. And I would also venture to say that every single one of you guys, every single one, when you're growing up, if you saw your brother or your sister getting treated completely different from you by your parents, you would be freaking out, saying, what the hell? Like, you take my brother out for ice cream, but you don't take me out for ice cream? You spank me for doing something wrong, but you don't spank my brother for doing something wrong? You give me $25 for my birthday, but you give my sister $100 for her birthday? What the hell? So everybody has this notion of fairness. And fairness in certain contexts is expected. It really is. Now, I still don't think it's achieved necessarily, because I think that, even in nuclear families, like where you have a mom and a dad and a few siblings and things like that, there still are so many things with the family dynamics where one of the parents just happens to get along with one of the kids better than the other kids, and then they get accused of, oh, he's your favorite or she's your favorite or whatever. And actually is some truth to that, I mean, unfortunately, I've seen it in my family for sure. I've seen it in my wife's family as well, where it's like my wife is her dad's favorite and her sister is her mom's favorite. And it's just stupid, like parents always take one child's side in an argument over another. Like, it does happen, But when we get outside the family, and we get into society as a whole, fairness really starts to become this huge gray area of, is it really like, there still need to be certain things that are fair. Like when you look at the way that the law is enforced, right? It's called equal protection under the law, right? Black people deserve equal protection under the law, the same as white people, the same as Hispanics, the same as Asians, the same as men, the same as women, the same as straight, the same as gay, the same as, child, the same as adult, the same as senior citizen. Everybody deserves equal protection under the law. Now, of course, we all know that that doesn't happen lots of times, and there can be favoritism there. But aside from equal protection under the law, I don't know what else the government is obligated to do for us that would be fair. I really don't. I mean, to me, that's where fairness stops. It's just equal protection under the law. I mean, and I am open to other people disagreeing with me and say, no, Shafe, the government should also be fair in this regard or that regard or whatever. But, when we have this morality that is man created, right? Not a God created morality, not a morality that comes from any biblical stance, not a morality that comes from any higher power, if you will. It just comes from a man-made doctrine. It fails miserably. I mean, it tries so hard. It tries so hard, but it fails so miserably when you have morality without God. Now let's compare what God's morality is to what man's morality is. God's morality is so easy to understand. And it's easy to understand. Like, God made it easy for us to understand. And people asked Jesus in his day, what is the most important law? And Jesus said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And love your neighbor as yourself, basically. I think it was like, love the Lord thy God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. But basically, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, which is the golden rule. So, you know how people say they want to simplify the tax code? Wouldn't it be great if we could simplify the law in this country and just have it be one sentence that says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you? Of course, we can't do that because you have people who would claim, well, this is what I want people to do to me. I want people to do that. And then they would do some horrible shit when really, if the shoe was on the other foot, they definitely would not want those things to be done to them. So unfortunately, we have to have this gigantic code of laws and this ever expanding list of do's and don'ts and regulations and all this crap. But unfortunately, that aspect of it tends to be necessary as far as like addressing specific things, right? You need a different speed limit in residential areas than you do on the highway, right? You can go up to 35 miles an hour down my street, maybe even slower, 25, whatever. But on the highway, if everybody's going 25 miles an hour, they're not going to get anywhere. So we can raise it up to 65, 75, whatever it is. There's obvious things that need to address, specific circumstances. And I guess do unto others as you would have them do unto you doesn't necessarily cover the speed limit kind of stuff, but it covers a lot. I mean, it covers assault, it covers burglary, it covers physical abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse. It covers taking advantage of people. It covers rape. It covers murder. It covers a lot of things. It covers a lot of things. Would you want to be raped? Would you want to be murdered? Would you want somebody to take advantage of you? Would you want somebody to break into your house? Blah, 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 right? So anyway, so that's God's morality in a nutshell, is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Let's discuss what man's morality is without God, or man's attempt at equalization and fairness and morality. Socialism. That's the number one thing, right? Forced so-called fairness by a usually biased centralized government, not a non-biased centralized government. Not that a non-biased centralized government would make it okay, but at least it would be better than a biased centralized government, right? I mean, if you have a liberal left-wing biased government, of course they're going to be harder on one group than they are on another. And just like if you had a conservative right-wing biased centralized government, they would be harder on other groups, right? So, but socialism, the Robin Hood mentality, take from the rich and give to the poor. That's basically what that amounts to, right? Socialism is Robin Hood on steroids. Forced fairness, and it's fairness of outcome, right? So in other words, I work 70 hours this week at a high stress demanding job, and you work 20 hours at a mindless job that requires little to no skill, yet we make the same amount of money. So it's an equal outcome, but it's not equal effort, it's not equal skill level, it's not equal anything. That just goes against universal principles of, the fact that you have to work your ass off in order to be successful. You can't get something out of, you can't get something unless you put something into it. That's, these are universal laws, the way God set things up. I mean, socialism just, it has this element of fairness, and it sounds great to the slacker, and it sounds great to the poor man, it sounds great to the uneducated man. It sounds great to the people who don't want to work, too. It sounds great to the mentally, physically handicapped. It sounds great to all those people. And if it was only reserved for the mentally and physically handicapped and the people who literally couldn't take care of themselves, then I wouldn't have that much of a problem with it either. But unfortunately, you have waste, you have fraud, you have abuse of the system, where people pretend that they're looking for work when they really aren't looking for work, so that they can continue to collect their unemployment check. People pretend to be disabled when they're really not disabled, or to be worse off than they actually are, right? Waste, fraud, and abuse. Socialism basically is too tempting for people to not engage in that kind of stuff. And then you have another big thing that's happening right now, and it's under the banner of morality, is this whole, if you see something, say something, right? So we have this woke mentality, and on top of the woke mentality, we're encouraging people to rat out their neighbors, right? If you hear, it's not just you who shouldn't be saying racial slurs, but if you hear somebody say a racial slur, you should tell somebody. It's not just you who shouldn't be stealing this or stealing that or whatever, but you should also be ratting out other people when you see them steal or do this or do that. And again, on the surface, this sounds great. It really does. But the problem that you have with that is the misinterpretations that people have, right? You have people saying, oh, I thought I heard him say the N-word. No, he didn't say the N-word. He said something totally different. Well, I'm not sure if he said it, so I'm going to report him anyway, just to make sure, because if you see something, you're supposed to say something. I saw him take this thing and put it in his pocket, and it didn't belong to him, so I'm going to go rat him out. Well, it turns out that thing that he took, somebody left it for him at and it was his, and he put it in his pocket. You just didn't know that, but you, because you're basically trained to be a tattletale, you're encouraged to be a tattletale. Now, anytime you see something that even has the appearance of immorality, you're just running around telling authority figures, this person did this person did that. And that's like, the typical Karen in your neighborhood who's always looking out her window and saying, oh, it looks like the guy across the street's up to no good. I'm going to call the cops on him, right? When you should really be minding your own fucking business. Again, there are times when you should be calling the cops when you see something. Not that you should never call the cops, but people just take it too far, and they literally, when I say they, I'm talking about the woke culture. They like to say things like, well, if you're not sure, still say something. Like, no. I'm sorry, that's wrong. If you're not sure? I mean, you really think the cops and the other authority figures don't have enough to do already? As opposed to, like following up on all of your, well, I think maybe possibly somebody was beating their kids because I heard this kid screaming across the street. Well, it turned out the kid was just playing with his fucking friends. Yet you think there was possibility of parental child abuse going on over there. There was like a 1 in 1,000 chance, so you just didn't want to take any chances, so you called the cop. Like, come on, dude. Like, you got to draw the line somewhere. You got to use your common sense. And this whole ratting people out if you see something, say something, is again, it's another form of man-made morality that just isn't. It just misses the mark so bad, and it's such a wasteful, foolish mindset to be in. So the next thing I want to talk about, I got 2 more things to talk about. The next thing I want to talk about, I lump these into one category, but they're really 3 separate things, like victimization, villainization, and scapegoating, right? So victimization, I think we all know what that is. Poor me, I'm a woman, I'm black, I'm disabled, I'm this, I'm that, please, like I deserve special treatment, I'm this, I'm that, like, whatever it is. The white man is the cause of all my problems, or the patriarchy is the cause of all my problems, or whatever it is. That in itself, it really sums up all 3 of those things, right? Victimization, villainization, and scapegoating, right? You can't have a victim without a villain. So if me, Shafe, I'm the victim, then you, whoever you are, you have to be the villain. Because it's got to be me on the moral high ground and you on the moral low ground. Nobody's interested in your story, why you're doing everything that you're doing, what your motivations are, what your reasons are. Nobody's interested in that. They're only interested in how it's affecting me, right? That's all they're interested in. And so I get special treatment because I'm the victim, and you get the unfavored treatment of being the villain. And then, of course, scapegoating, just blaming all your problems on, the Republicans, or blaming all your problems on the Democrats, or blaming all your problems on your parents or whoever, right? It would be great if you could do that, because it's so simple to do that. It's really simple to do that. I would love it, honestly, if I could do that. I'm not even kidding you, but I would love it, because if I could do that, then really, if I could sit back and I could make $1 million a year and not do anything, and say the reason why I'm so poor is because I had a tough childhood, and I've got this and that and this and that and this and that not going for me, and I could just blame and scapegoat and victimize myself and villainize other people, and get lawsuit after lawsuit, or just get the government to just send me a monthly check of $83,000 a month and make $1 million a year. That would be great, wouldn't it? Because I wouldn't have to improve my education. I wouldn't have to improve my skills. I wouldn't have to grow as a person. I could just be the horrible, awful person that I am right now, and not have to change, and just get money. Yeah, that would be great. Unfortunately, the world doesn't work like that. And for anybody to think that it should, they're not living in reality. And the last thing I want to talk about, the last element of man-made morality, is what I call inclusivity without restraint. Right? Inclusivity, again, we're making a play on words here, right? We are using a good notion, a good thing, and we're twisting it. Inclusivity, that is a good thing. It really is, right? And I know all about not being included, because I was the youngest brother of several boys. There were 7 of us growing up, and I was the youngest. You want to talk about not getting included? You want to talk about no, you're too small, you can't come with us, or you're too skinny, or you're too weak, or you're too slow, or you're too dumb, or whatever it was. You're like, they were constantly leaving me out of stuff, not including me, making me feel like I was inferior, right? So inclusivity in and of itself is a good thing. If there's a kid at school and he's a social outcast and he's got problems, or he's a new kid in school, he's having trouble making friends, I highly encourage my children to include that little boy or that little girl. Like, include them in your club. I know they might be a little strange, but you're doing them a favor. You're including them. You're bringing them into the fold. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Okay? But like everything else, even inclusivity should have some boundaries on it, right? Why are we trying to celebrate criminals? Why are we trying to include illegal aliens, people who have crossed the border into this country illegal? Why are we doing that? Why? And then, on top of that, the politicians are going to obfuscate the whole thing, and they are going to force us to conflate two issues: the issue of inclusivity and the issue of racism, right? Or the issue of criminality and the issue of racism, rather. That's a better explanation. People are saying, I don't want these criminals to come in to my country that deal drugs and that do this and do this and do this and do that, right? And then Nancy Pelosi steps up and says, but they're all Mexicans you're talking about. So really, it's not the criminals that you're worried about. You don't like Mexicans. That's really what your problem is. You don't like Mexicans. So that's a game they play, right? And so we're so petrified of being called racist that we just capitulate. And we say, okay, you can let the criminals in. I don't want to be called racist. Go ahead and let all the criminals in because they're brown. So you got to let them in. They don't need papers. They don't need to come in legally. They don't need to pay taxes. They don't need to. It's fine. Just let them in, because the last thing I want to do is be called a racist, right? So that's the game that they play. You celebrate criminals. And it's not just criminal. Like, it's not just those criminals. I mean, in some places, like, pederasties get celebrated and protected. And then you got the whole notion, and this is the biggest hot button right here, celebrating mental illness. That's the biggest hot button nowadays, it seems like, celebrating mental illness. And I'm gonna say it: homosexuality, transgender, all that. It's mental illness. That's exactly what it is. I want to be very direct and careful here. I'm not saying to not include them, and I'm not saying to ostracize them. I'm saying that you can't accept everybody for who they are and allow people to be leaders in your society when they are mentally ill, any more than you can let a schizophrenic come in and teach children, right? What's a schizophrenic going to do if he comes in to a classroom? He's going to be talking about dogs that talk to him and tell him if the stock market's going up tomorrow or not. He's going to be talking about how he has voices in his head that like demons that tell him, when the end of the world is coming. Would you want that guy teaching your kids something? Would you want that guy in the classroom teaching your children, in your church, teaching your congregation? And would you want that guy to be your boss? Would you want a schizophrenic to be your boss? No? Okay. Then why do you want other mentally ill people in leadership positions like the Biden administration has right now? They're mentally ill. They are men who were born with a dick and balls who dress as women and talk with a high voice. Come on. Anybody who doesn't recognize this as mental illness is just fooling themselves. Again, we include them in society. Not only do we include them in society, but we elevate them, right? we put them above ourselves. It's just insane. It's just insane. All this stuff, actually, even though it has good intentions, some of it has good intentions, it does the exact opposite of what God's morality wants for us, which is to do unto others as we would have them do unto you. It actually requires people to do unto others as you would not have them do unto you, right? I mean, if you're Robin Hood and you're taking money from people and giving it to someone, is that what you want to be done to you? Do you want your money to be taken? No. If you're gonna do something nice with your money, you want to volunteer your money, right? That's what you want to do. So anyway, this leads to immorality and it leads to injustice. That's why I think morality cannot come from man. I mean, man's attempt at morality fails miserably every single time. And the true morality actually comes from God. It comes from the God of the Bible. Where else can it come from? Right? I mean, that's where it comes from. And it's obvious that when we try to develop a moral code outside of that it fails miserably. So to me, it should be obvious that that's what that's truth. And I really would be interested to hear from anybody who doesn't believe it's truth. All right, talk to you later.